Today's guest is a legend in his own right. He became the first person to run 1600 kilometers. 1600 kilometers across Pakistan in just 36 days to raise $1 million to educate 7,000 out of school children. It's none other than Tabarak Rahman. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you, brother. And we had a fundraising target of $1 million, but we were eventually able to raise 750K. So
Okay.
yeah, just a slight correction there, but
Just
I'm
still
happy to be here.
doesn't change anything. Still pretty incredible. So, uh, let me just start here. You're When I came across you first, I was so inspired. This is something I've aspired to do as well in different ways and in different capacities. But just looking at you doing that and it was just so inspiring. So this is just gonna be, uh, you know, me sitting in front of someone who inspires me and understanding their perspective of what they've been through and just getting a first hand experience of what it is like to do something so impactful and magnificent. So let me start with, how does someone run 1600 kilometers? It's hard for a lot of people to fathom.
I think it's hard to fathom, but it's not as hard to do. You just keep, putting one step after the other.
Yeah. How did it start? Where did this start? Where did the first thought come in mind? Why did you want to do this?
So the first thought came to my mind. I think the seed had been planted in my head in 2019 before COVID. So this guy Mike Posner, big DJ, I'm a big fan. He walked
Me too.
across America in 2019, and I followed his journey. Followed his album as well. I think he came up with the song "Live Before I Die," where he talks about his run and explain his journey. So there, I knew that this is possible. But then in February 2024, last year, there was this other guy, Paul Johnson. He was running across America, Los Angeles to New York City, and that's exactly when I had started running. I just got into running, and as a person, when I get into something, I surround myself with all sorts of content around that thing. So I was following all the running influencers, all the athletes, and then suddenly this crazy guy is running across America. I'm like, this is so cool. And he finished his journey. He was going for a world record. He finished his journey in New York in March or April, and I ran the last 10 miles with him. And I was like, this is phenomenal. If he can do it, I can do it as well. And I think ultra running as a sport is having its moment. And Russ Cook, he ran across Africa. He was finishing up around the same time, March, April 2024. So just following those journeys and getting inspired by those people. And after my run, I met the guy Rob Symbiante. He was the crew chief for Paul Johnson, and I told him, like, you guys did an amazing job running across America, and if you guys had not done what you guys did, I would not have run across Pakistan. And he was like, sometimes we don't even know the impact of these crazy things that we do. We're planting seeds of craziness, in people
Everywhere.
that we don't even know of. So
Yeah.
that's how it started for me. And then I started training for it. I was just raw dogging my training until July. I was just running like a crazy man around New York, but I got injured in July, and that's when I started. I hired a coach. The coach volunteered essentially, and that's when
Hmm.
my real training started.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you decided earlier in 2024, and then you started in November, I believe, and finished in
Yeah,
December.
I started in November, and this was not just a running campaign for me. This was a fundraising campaign too, because I'm not a big runner, or I don't consider myself a runner, but I wanted to do something for education in Pakistan. And when Paul Johnson, when he raised money for veterans, that's when I realized, okay, this is one way to fundraise for education. So this is a way to create an impact by doing something that is like so cool. And I knew that I'm not a physically gifted guy. I don't consider myself like a top athlete, but I do know that I'm mentally very strong. I've always come out and said that I think I'm one of the more mentally strong people I know. So, and this is all about mental strength. So I was playing to my strength essentially, and that's when I started training about for the run. I had been training since February, but I wanted to announce the run in August. I had two windows: either do it in November 2024 or February 2025. And so February March is when there was an overlap with Ramadan in
Hmm.
Pakistan, number one. And number two, I couldn't get my PTO in February. So I spoke to my manager or my PMD, and he himself is a runner. I spoke to him in April or May, actually. He had just run the Boston Marathon. He comes
Hmm.
in, he starts talking about his Boston Marathon. I listened to him for like 30 minutes, and then, I tell him about my run,
Drop
and
the
he was like,
bomb. Yeah.
then I dropped the bomb. And I'm glad that I work with like really cool people who value pursuits outside of the workplace. So my whole company was super supportive of the idea, and they got behind it.
That's beautiful, man. So I want to go back to a little bit to when the seed was planted. So you mentioned you weren't a runner. So what part or what aspect of the run or the Mike Posner walk or the Russ Cook run really appealed to you?
I think the mental strength side of it, as I said, I relate with those guys because I think I'm mentally very strong, and this does require mental toughness. And I wanted to do something for me to get a sense of achievement as well. Like, I have done something that nobody else has done, get those
Hmm.
bragging rights for myself, essentially, but also to prove myself that I am actually mentally strong as well. So I really relate with those guys, conquering yourself. And once you do something difficult or something that is perceived as hard, then everything else seems easy. For example, I've said this multiple times too, that sitting behind a laptop after running for 10 hours a day or for 8 hours a day for 35 days, everything else seems easy to me now. So that was the whole point for me.